The airport buzzed with the usual chaos of travelers rushing between gates. But for Mia and Liam, two excited kids clutching their backpacks, this trip was something special. They were about to board their first private jet tour, so they thought. Dressed in their simple jeans and sneakers, they waited patiently near the lounge, unaware that a sharp-eyed flight attendant was watching them with judgment in her eyes. "They must be lost," she muttered under her breath, glancing at their worn clothes and travel-worn bags. When the kids tried to board, she blocked their way, her polite smile tight and cold. "Sweethearts, this jet is for private passengers only. You're probably looking for the economy gate." Her tone carried the kind of arrogance that makes silence heavy. The children exchanged a nervous glance, confused but too polite to argue. They tried to explain that their dad told them to wait here, but she laughed softly, shaking her head. "I'm sure he did, dear," she said, her words dripping with disbelief. Passengers nearby began to stare, some whispering. Just then, a tall man in a crisp suit approached from behind, his calm presence commanding quiet. The flight attendant's smile brightened instantly until she realized who he was walking toward. He stopped in front of the kids, gently resting a hand on each of their shoulders. "Ready to board, champs?" he asked warmly. The attendant's smile froze as her eyes widened, realizing the truth far too late. The flight attendant's confident posture faltered as she looked from the man to the children, her earlier arrogance slowly melting into confusion. The man Daniel didn't seem angry, just quietly observant. He spoke with calm authority, the kind that came naturally to someone used to being in charge. "Is there a problem?" he asked, his voice even but firm. The attendant quickly straightened her uniform, stammering, "Oh no, sir. I just thought they were waiting for another flight." Daniel gave her a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, then gently guided Mia and Liam toward the jet. As they stepped inside, the luxurious cabin gleamed under soft lighting leather seats, polished tables, and the faint scent of fresh coffee in the air. The kids' eyes widened in wonder, their earlier discomfort fading into excitement. The attendant followed them, still trying to piece together what had just happened. Daniel spoke briefly with the captain before taking a seat near his children, his watch glinting subtly under the cabin lights. It was clear he wasn't just another passenger. Whispers spread quietly among the crew. Who exactly was this man? Why did the pilot greet him so respectfully? The attendant's mind raced, her earlier judgment now replaced by uneasy curiosity. She tried to focus on her duties, but every time Daniel spoke with quiet confidence or the children laughed freely, she felt a growing sense of regret. Something told her she had made a mistake she wouldn't forget anytime soon. As the jet prepared for takeoff, the flight attendant struggled to focus. Every time she passed Daniel and his children, she replayed her earlier words, feeling a mix of embarrassment and fear. She had judged them in seconds just because of how they looked. Now, watching the pilot greet Daniel with the kind of respect reserved for someone important, she realized she might have crossed a line she couldn't take back. But there was something else about him, his quiet confidence, the way he carried himself, that made her wonder who he really was. Mia leaned close to her father, whispering, "Dad, why was that lady so mean to us?" Daniel smiled softly, brushing her hair back. "Sometimes people see what's on the outside and forget there's more to a person than that." His calm tone masked the flicker of disappointment in his eyes. He wasn't just a father, he was the owner of the very jet they were flying on, though almost no one on board seemed to know. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, the co-pilot exchanged a curious glance with the captain. "Did you notice? Mr. Daniels didn't say much today," he murmured. "Usually, he checks everything before takeoff." The captain nodded. Maybe something's on his mind. Back in the cabin, the flight attendant decided to approach him, hoping to make things right. But just as she stepped forward, she overheard him quietly taking a call. "No, I don't want this made public," Daniel said. "Let's keep it between us for now." The word sent a shiver through her. What exactly was he hiding? The flight had settled into a calm rhythm, but the air inside the cabin felt heavier than before. The flight attendant couldn't stop thinking about Daniel's mysterious phone call. His tone was low and serious, nothing like the warm father who had comforted his children earlier. Every word seemed to carry weight. She replayed it in her mind. Let's keep it between us for now. What could he possibly mean? Her curiosity battled with guilt, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something important was happening right in front of her. Daniel sat quietly, gazing out the window as the clouds rolled beneath them. His expression was thoughtful, almost distant. Mia had fallen asleep on his shoulder, while Liam was sketching something in his notebook. To anyone else, it looked like a peaceful family moment, but inside Daniel's mind, a storm was brewing. The call had confirmed his worst fears. Someone within his company had leaked private jet designs, and the consequences could be massive. In the back galley, the attendant tried to act normal, but her nerves betrayed her. She accidentally dropped a tray, startling the passengers. Daniel looked up instantly, his calm eyes meeting hers. There was no anger, just a quiet understanding that made her uneasy. Moments later, the captain's voice came through the speaker, tense and measured. "Mr. Daniels, could you join me in the cockpit for a moment?" The cabin fell silent. The attendant's heart pounded as Daniel rose slowly, kissed his children's heads, and walked forward, everyone watching, holding their breath, waiting to find out what was coming next. Daniel stepped into the cockpit, the door closing softly behind him. The captain turned in his seat, his face pale. "Sir, we just received an encrypted message," he said quietly. "Someone's trying to access the jet's internal system remotely." Daniel's expression hardened. "From where?" The co-pilot hesitated before replying. "From one of our own hangars." For a moment, silence filled the cockpit, broken only by the steady hum of the engines. Daniel realized what that meant. Someone inside his company wasn't just leaking information. They were trying to take control of his aircraft. Back in the cabin, the flight attendant noticed the change immediately. The usually smooth flight now carried a strange tension. She watched as the pilots exchanged quick glances through the small window in the cockpit door. Mia stirred in her sleep, sensing the shift in mood. Liam looked up, confused. When the seatbelt sign flickered on, even though the sky outside was perfectly calm, Daniel returned moments later, his calm demeanor now mixed with quiet urgency. "We're fine," he assured his kids, but his eyes told another story. The attendant approached, her voice low. "Is everything all right, sir?" Daniel looked at her for a long second, as if deciding whether to trust her. "Finally," he said, "not exactly, but I might need your help." Before she could respond, the intercom crackled again. The captain's voice was tight. "Mr. Daniels, the system's been breached. We're losing manual control." The cabin went still. The hum of the engines deepened and the jet began to tilt. The jet dipped sharply, sending a wave of panic through the cabin. Mia woke up crying, clutching her father's arm, while Liam's sketchbook slid to the floor. Daniel steadied them both, his calm voice cutting through the chaos. "It's all right. Stay buckled." Inside, though, he knew the situation was critical. The flight attendant's hands trembled as she grabbed the intercom, trying to stay composed. "Everyone, please remain seated," she said, her voice shaking slightly. Daniel rushed toward the cockpit, his mind racing. Years of business strategy couldn't prepare him for something like this, but he wasn't helpless. He had helped design the security system on this jet himself. "Switch to the manual override," he ordered. The captain hesitated. "It's not responding, sir." Daniel moved quickly to the panel, entered a code only he knew, and suddenly the alarm stopped. The aircraft steadied, hovering back to level flight. Everyone in the cockpit exhaled in relief. Back in the cabin, the passengers cheered softly, unaware of how close they'd come to disaster. The flight attendant stood frozen, tears of relief in her eyes. She finally approached Daniel, whispering, "I'm so sorry for how I treated your kids earlier." He looked at her kindly and said, "Maybe this flight was meant to teach us both something." As the jet prepared to land, Daniel's phone buzzed. A message flashed on the screen. "Asterisk, you stopped me this time, but I'm not done." His expression darkened slightly. The danger wasn't over. Someone was still out there, watching. The jet touched down smoothly on the private runway, and the passengers let out a quiet sigh of relief. The golden evening light poured through the windows, softening the tension that had hung in the air. Daniel stayed seated for a moment, letting his kids rest against him. Mia smiled sleepily, asking, "Daddy, are we home now?" He nodded gently. "Yes, sweetheart, we're safe." His voice carried both exhaustion and gratitude. The flight attendant walked over slowly, her earlier confidence replaced with humility. "Mr. Daniels, I can't apologize enough," she said, her voice trembling. "I judged what I saw, not who you were." Daniel looked at her, calm but firm. "It's not just about me," he said. "We all forget sometimes that respect shouldn't depend on appearances." His words weren't harsh. They carried a quiet truth that stayed with her. Outside the jet, security teams waited. Daniel handed his children to the driver before turning back to the captain. "Find out who accessed that system," he said. The captain nodded, already making calls. As the engines powered down, Daniel looked up at the sleek jet, though, same one that had almost been turned against him. Before leaving, he glanced back at the flight attendant, offering a small nod. "Thank you for helping when it mattered," he said. She smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. As the family drove away, the skyline glowed ahead. What began as a flight of judgment had turned into a journey of lessons about kindness, humility, and seeing people for who they truly are.